Welcome to What's the Effort?
What the F?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. And I would like to say a very special welcome to Jon. Jon, thank you very, very much for coming on my podcast. I feel so honored to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I got to say, I love your intro.
Yeah, if you don't fall asleep on it, right? Well, I got slack for that being so long, but what can I say? I'm in the process of rethinking it.
I think it's good.
Yeah, it's funny. Flowers, children,
Mhm.
you name it. Well, thank you very, very much for being here. I always hear a few things about people as they're getting ready to come on. And I have to say that I had quite a few people reaching out and saying thank you. Thank you for bringing Jon on. I was like,
Really?
hey, so
That's
you
so
are
nice.
a very well liked person. And I think that's awesome and well regarded. So I think that is really, really cool. And I, not everybody falls in that, they can be polarizing or whatever, but you tend to be very, very um, seen as very stable and very kind and very good. So I think that that's something I need to pass on.
Well, thank you, everyone who mentioned me. I had no idea, so I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. However, don't think I'm going to go easy on you. So,
Okay.
I do like to get an idea of our beginnings. I think we meet up here as adults, but as little ones, we were very different. So, if you would, I'm kind of interested in knowing a little bit about your family of origin. Tell me a bit about whether you have siblings, your parents. Were you raised with an extended family, or was it just your parents? And talk to me a little bit about your beginning.
Sure. So I think a lot of it has to do. I mean, to talk about my beginnings, you have to talk about my parents. My parents are both from Hong Kong. My dad grew up very, very poor. Uh, Lived on top of a building. Didn't even live inside the building. Lived on top of a building, and they had metal sheets for walls and a roof. Um, I think he said that he had not, was just living life, and one day decided to make a change, and to do that, he just left Hong Kong. It was a very tough process the way he explained it to me, because again, they had no money, and when you come to this country, they want to make sure that you have the ability to survive, and so he moved money around from different accounts, not even his own, like just business accounts that his dad worked for, that my grandfather worked for, just to show that we had money, um, and he made it over with really nothing except the shirt, like the clothes that he was wearing. He
Wow.
worked his way up, yeah, to
When did he come? How old was he?
I think he was around 30, late 20s, early 30s. Figured out how to get into school, went to community college for a couple years. Um, Decided just he was good at math, but decided just to do computer science on a whim, and it has worked out really well for him. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, and then my mom ended up following him
Wait,
to
was he already married when he came over?
no.
Just
So
a
my
girlfriend, boyfriend?
Yeah, they were dating, and then they wouldn't even let my mom in the country, so she had to fly to Ottawa. And my dad went and met her up. They got married in Canada, and then made it across the border. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it definitely a story that is very
Yeah.
interesting.
Have you been back to Hong Kong?
Yeah, I love Hong Kong. It's like my
Yeah,
second
it was
home.
in my intro. I don't know if you caught it,
Yeah,
but
I was looking at it. It looked like Hong Kong with the tall buildings with the mountains in the back.
yep.
Yeah, I just like driving, especially to and from the city. When you get to see those tall buildings, it's like looking at mountains, but these are man-made structures, and pretty amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
Plus,
it's
the food's
hard
really
for
good.
us to fathom here
Hmm.
because they are like an entire city block,
Yeah,
one building,
yeah,
and there are like a whole bunch of them. And you're
Mhm.
going, holy camole, that's a lot of people all living in one building.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I found Hong Kong to be beautiful and very interesting.
Mhm.
But I can see why people might want to leave because, I'd gone through a museum on what it was like in the 40s, and there's very little space. There's very little.
Mhm.
We want, a big yard. They don't even have a yard.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't.
Although there's so much money in Hong Kong that, of
Mhm.
course, some of the wealthiest people of the world live there. So
Yeah.
you
They
see
live on the side of the mountain, though. They have yards.
exactly, exactly. Wow. So
Yeah.
he got uh, his girlfriend to come over by marrying her in
Mhm.
Ottawa.
Yes. Mhm.
Right.
And then, they went through college, or my dad did, and graduated, could
Where
not
did he
find a
settle? Where was it that he came?
oh, Binghamton, New York. It's actually where I was
Okay.
born. Yeah, he went to SUNY Binghamton, and I think after he graduated, was looking for a job, could not find a job. So my mom and I actually moved to Hong Kong for like 6 months, and he was about to go back to Hong Kong as well, but ended up finding a job in, I think it was Northern Virginia, like Alexandria. So we made the move, came back. Yeah.
Wow. Where did you live when you were in Hong Kong for 6 months?
I think we lived either with one of my grandparents. I mean, neither one were in great situations. So my dad's family lived, or my grandparents, so my dad's side lived on top of a building, and then on my mom's side we had one room, pretty big room, but the bed was actually up a up a ladder, and all I think 8 or 9 of my parents or mom's siblings uh, slept there. So whenever it was kind of fun, it was like a big bunk bed, but we just could not stand up there. We had to crawl everywhere. But it was a huge like sleeping space. So it was like a
Wow.
huge bed. Yeah,
How old were you then?
I was less than a year old.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah,
you remember it through pictures.
I remember from my parents telling me about it, and my
Yep.
mom's stories on the plane by herself. It was rough.
Did you have any other siblings?
No, only child.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So then you guys moved to Alexandria, came back to be with your dad,
Mhm.
and he was working. Was mom working too, or was she at home with you?
I think she was working too. It was a tough life. I mean, they put me in daycare, which was one of my neighbors' house, and they would both go to work. They had one car, so my mom would have to go on the metro. My dad would drop her off at the metro, go to work, and then after he was done with his work, he would go pick her up from the metro. I remember one story where it was snowing and my dad had to come. I think the car broke down or he got stuck in a ditch somewhere, so he had to walk a bunch of miles to go catch up with my mom, who cell phones didn't exist back then. And I forget what happened, but it was a big ordeal. Actually, I don't think it broke down. I think it just ran out of gas, so they had to go together to go buy a container, put gas in the car, and uh, come get me. It was not, take we take a lot of things for granted in this world right now.
I agree. I agree. Talk to me about your first school experiences. Were you, in a public school? Is that what you guys, elementary school?
Yeah, elementary school. I don't remember too much about it. It was, I think, by that time I had moved down to Springfield, Virginia, and went to a school called Newington Forest, um, and it was cool. I mean, most of my memories were from daycare. It was called Children's World at the time. Yeah,
Interesting. Well,
yeah.
what were you like in elementary school, though? Like,
Of
tell me what the teachers would have said about you. Were you a troublemaker? Were you quiet? Were you, tell me about what your personality was like. And
Mhm.
also, um, I'm sorry, how sweet is that?
Oh, that's awesome. Yes,
Marianne,
fans.
that is so kind of you, man. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. I'm touched. I'm touched. I was looking to see if there's any comments for you, and
Yeah.
anyhow, but do tell me a little bit about, what your personality was like and what teachers would have said about you.
I probably would have said I was a pretty sensitive kid. Um, yeah, a sensitive kid, but I also had a lot of friends. I think growing up, just because I had that, um, I had my experiences in the daycare, and then the daycare we'd spend a lot of time with each other. So you got to meet kids at that time, as kids of all ages. So I had a lot of friends in elementary school, and then I think around first grade or second grade, my parents got divorced, and I think that kind of changed who I was a little bit. Just trying to figure out, um, not figure out life, but I kind of just kept everything. Like I remember talking to
Yeah,
a counselor, they're asking me questions. Like I just kind of kept it to myself. I didn't know how to talk about it.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Trauma of any sort, right? Because
Hmm.
you're like, well, wait a minute. Well, did I do something? What happened?
Yeah.
So when it changed you, how did it change you?
Probably became more reclusive. I mean, I still, got to hang out with people and talk to people and made friends, but it was, I think it made me, and this is all speculation because at the time I had no idea, right? But looking back, it probably made me more quiet, less expressive about certain things. Yeah.
Did both parents live close to each other? Like, did you get to visit your dad and your mom, or were there like you were only with one?
I got to visit. So I was actually going back. Thursdays, I would go to my dad's house. Fridays, and then Saturday nights, my dad would take me back to my mom's house.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
did see both of them.
I did see both of them, and then I did get to see the conflict as I was growing up, which was, not the easiest thing to see, but uh, you know, it
Yeah.
was just what it was.
And was your
Yeah.
mom working then?
Yep, she was working
Okay.
as a fashion designer or something in some kind of
Really?
fashion fabric. Yeah,
That
yeah.
must have
She
been
makes
fun.
her own. Yeah, she used to make her own clothes. She used to make my clothes. She actually helps my daughter with her eczema clothing because there's certain things that you just could not buy like on Etsy. So she would get measurements and put that stuff together.
That's awesome. Very nice.
Yeah,
Very nice
yeah.
indeed. What about high school? Talk to me about, did you have any hobbies, or did you do any sports, or what did you, what were you like then?
High school was definitely a more challenging time for me because I spent all my time in this one elementary school, and then when I moved up to middle school, I got switched to a different district. So I didn't
Uh-huh.
have all of my friends, went to Lee High School. I ended up going to Hayfield. Uh, it was tough trying to make new friends. And, I was also not the biggest. I didn't, I was a late bloomer. So I just remember walking into school one day and this high schooler, I was in probably seventh grade, high school started yelling at me. Elementary school is on the other side of the street. Like you're in the wrong spot. I was like, well, that's tough. But outside of that, I had people say stuff to me, but I kind of just kept to myself. Didn't really do a whole lot. I had some friends here and there, but even then, like I didn't really know how to keep friends. So I would make friends for a year, and then the next year I would see them and not really talk to them because I didn't know how to say small talk was not easy for me.
Interesting. Very interesting. And what about sports, or, like theater or hobbies, any of that?
I played a lot of computer games. I did try running track for 3 weeks, and then I got shingles at a very young age, so I stopped doing that.
You got
Um,
shingles as a child?
yeah, it was very weird. I think it was in freshman year. Yeah,
Interesting.
hmm
That's not nice.
yeah.
So, what's happened on the shingles front? Do you have shots against it now?
No, I mean it came and then it was painful for a little bit, and then it went away. And since then, I haven't really had any issues with it, so it's kind of weird.
Interesting. My sister got shingles when she was about 45, and that was considered early.
Right.
And the doctor offered me the shot against it,
Hmm.
not long after. I said, yes, I'll take the shot.
Yeah.
And then when I got to be, somewhere in my 60s, they said, have you had the shot? I said, yep. And they go, what about the booster? I go, what do you mean? They're like, you might still get it. I was like, give me the booster,
Really?
because
Wow.
shingles is nasty.
Yeah. I mean, luckily it was only like the size of maybe like a baseball or softball on my back. Um,
Yeah.
I was, yeah, it came and went.
Well, good. I'm glad that it went.
Yeah.
I'm glad it
Thank
went.
you.
And what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lot. So as a young kid,
You
I
are a
wanted,
lot. You're an awful lot.
yeah, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to be an architect, a carpenter, a professor. Um, wanted to, yeah, those
Wow.
are the things that I remember.
Professor of what?
I didn't know. I just wanted to teach. I really enjoyed it, and that was something that I wanted to be in college. But by that time, I wanted to make more than a professor or teacher, so I kind of went a different route.
That's funny. Well, an architect and carpenter aren't that far apart. I
Yeah.
mean,
Mhm.
obviously, one is using their hands a lot more, but they think in the same way. It's
Yeah.
about all about 3D
Mhm.
and manifesting it. So maybe
Yeah.
the architect is like the virtual aspect, and the carpenter is the real thing, but they have the similar way of thinking.
Yeah.
Astronaut. Wow.
Mhm. Yeah.
You weren't claustrophobic, huh?
No, I mean, I had an MRI one time and I fell asleep in there, so I wouldn't say I'm claustrophobic.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that is so funny. That is so funny. So, what did you go to college to study, or?
I did. I went to college and I mean, I was not ready for school. I went on first year, I got on academic suspension and
Suspension?
yeah, just because
Sounds
my
like you
GPA was
might have.
really low.
Oh, because of your grades.
Yeah, my grades were
Oh,
not good. So I went to community college. I think it took me 2.5 years to get through that. And then and then because I did that, I was able to get back into the college that I had originally gone to. I tried biochemistry for a little bit, was not suited for that. And then just chose accounting because it was stable and made decent money.
that's why you chose it?
Yeah.
Huh, sounds like a lot of women, the way they choose their men. They're stable and they make and
Yeah.
it makes money.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. Okay, so you went into accounting, and did you finish? And are you an accountant? Talk to us how you move forward.
Yeah, I finished, and then the next logical step was to go get a job in accounting. I thought it was. I honestly, I don't know how I got through life. I went and applied for this job, and it was, I had an accounting degree, and then it was a billing specialist. I didn't know what it was. It was basically just creating invoices for this large multi-million, I guess, $1 billion company. Um, after 10 months, it did not, it wasn't what I enjoyed doing. So I went and I got another job where I was an internal cost accountant for an accounting firm. And then I split my time between doing accounting and they call business intelligence work, which is basically mixing accounting and database and then using building logic to put stuff together.
Explain that a little bit more.
Sure. So
Databases, I understand. I
mhm,
understand the CPA role.
yeah.
How explain that a bit more? What was the title?
Internal cost accountant, but that
Okay.
didn't really the title really didn't mean a whole lot. It was I split my time halfway between doing like staff accounting work for the internal accounting department, and then the other half would be pulling data out of a system, and then using like scripts or logic to filter the data, put it into a way that's presentable. So I think my favorite thing to do was take an income statement, which just shows profit and losses and shows you what the bottom line is. And then
Mhm.
taking that and giving you what's called like a trended income statement, which
Mm.
is for the last 12 months, these are the revenues, expenses, and all that. And then you can see whether it's going up and down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something a lot of us need.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was very frustrating at first because I didn't understand tables and how the relationships were built. So it was very frustrating, but it was also very fun at the same time, which is interesting to say because there were times where I had to like leave my desk, go outside, and just take deep breaths for 15 minutes, and then go back to it. Uh, but I guess there's that book called Grit by Angela Duckworth, where I think that was probably in my part where it's challenging enough to get me annoyed, but not challenging enough for me to leave.
That's interesting. That is
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that for sure. So, how old were you then? And when did you meet your wife and such? Tell me where we're at in your stage of life.
Sure. So I was about 25 or 26 at the time
Mhm.
because I graduated college quite late. Met my wife at that point I've known her for about a year. Actually, funny story, I'd known her since I was 20 and she was 15, just because we played online games together. But there was like never any, um, I
Spark?
guess, yeah, because we were just playing video games. Like we had met in a channel that I was usually meet my friends in. She just happened to be there. None of my friends were in there, so we just played computer games for like 5 years before we actually met in person. And
Really?
then, yeah, yeah,
Where did she live that you
she
didn't
lived
meet
like
for 5 years?
15 minutes from where I lived.
I'm sorry, that's so hysterical to me.
Yeah, because
And you didn't think of meeting before then?
well, no, because I mean the
'Cause she
laws were
was
against
younger.
that,
Yeah,
and she was too young, and at the time I was dating other people too, so it
right.
wasn't like I had any interest in her. But yeah, I mean, one day she asked for help in chemistry. I said, "Oh, I was a biochem major for a little bit. I could help you." I couldn't, so but we still like hung out afterwards. So that was kind of cool.
And that's the first time you met.
Yeah, that was the first time we met. Yep. So at the time we were about a year in of dating. Yeah.
Nice. Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
How many years have you been married now?
We've been married. It'll be 10 years in 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
It's amazing how fast it goes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many little ones do you have there?
We have two little ones,
How little?
6 and 3. So the youngest one, she's about to turn 4 in, wow, about a month now. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. How do you like being a
Yeah.
dad?
I mean, I honestly love it. It's the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do, but it's what I've always wanted as a family. Just because the way that I grew up, it was not the most stable life. So this is all that I ever wanted, and it's kind of nice to have.
Did you purposely want more than one?
Yeah, because my dad was an only child, and I'm an only child, and so it was quite boring growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a new experience to have two.
Yeah. 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 Is two your magic number?
I don't know. Like we're thinking about 3, but it's a very challenging thing to think about. I mean, it's the dynamic of having 3, I think, is very cool, but at the same time, you know, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work and it's expensive and everything else.
Yeah.
I happen to feel that three is the perfect number personally, even though I only had two myself, you know, because I love the fact that it isn't as easy as 50-50. When there's two,
Mhm.
it's so easy to say, okay, your turn this time, her turn
Mhm.
next time.
Yeah.
Well, when there's three, they're going to mix it up
Yeah.
and you have to learn how to negotiate. And it's
Mhm.
always going to be two against one, but it never
Yeah.
stays the same two against one.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I love that part of three.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that should something happen to the parents, three gives you like enough of so that you can survive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about what we do
Mhm.
in real estate. Um, Talk to me about the very first time you came across, that dude. What's his name? Oh yeah, Pace.
Yeah.
How did you first meet Pace? Where? Tell me a little bit about it.
So I had discovered Pace through Bigger Pockets. It was actually through one of the SubTo students. She was in our Bigger Pockets mastermind group, and she
Oh,
had
you went to a
mentioned.
Bigger Pockets mastermind?
Yeah, it wasn't an in-person thing. At that
Oh,
time, they were running some sort of promotion where if you joined, they would kind of group you with 4 or 5 other Bigger Pockets members, and you'd all kind of hang out, I guess. Yeah. And
okay.
so she had mentioned Pace, and I looked into him. Didn't know much about him. I just saw him like taking pictures with a bunch of people. So thank you, Giselle.
She's being very sweet, isn't she?
Yeah,
Thank you, Giselle.
yeah. Learned about him. Found out he was just doing what he was doing, and
He was at that event?
he wasn't at that event, but one of his substitutes was in my group.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, and she did say that the network alone was worth the entry, but I forget what it was. It just made me think, okay, maybe I should go somewhere else because I was looking into creative finance, and I don't know if you know the app Clubhouse.
No.
So Clubhouse is like a social media type thing, but it's like live meetings where you get to go on stage and talk to people. Funny story about that. I remember my wife telling me about it and just kind of pushing me to go on there. And at that time, I huge mindset issues, and she kind of pushed me to go, why don't you go raise your hand and get up on stage. I remember just getting so annoyed at that suggestion, like how dare you, right? But then I go downstairs, I put on headphones, and I do it, and I think that was just like the start of everything. But
I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
but I had met another group of creative finance people who were doing sandwiches, and for whatever reason, just thought that they'd be good to work with, and so joined their mentorship. Did not enjoy what it is that I was doing,
Hmm.
and stepped away. Then I heard his episode on Bigger Pockets. I think it was like episode 300, or maybe he had 300 doors at the time, something about 300.
Yeah,
And
I want to say episode 300, but I'm not
yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
remember the 300 too, also, but
yeah. And remember him just talking about it, and I was like, all right, cool. Again, stepped away from it. I remember being stuck in my business because I was doing the burn method and things were not going the way that I had hoped they'd be going at the time. And so really just went back to Sunday service, um, listened to him there, still wasn't convinced until I was driving up to Baltimore to go take a look at a house that I was buying or was going to buy. And he said something about the Avatar series and how just because you're in real estate doesn't mean you have to go on cold call. And because of that, I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll follow him. So then I started digging more into him. And then he had that Bird Dog series with Laura, that 2 hour
Mhm.
that two
Yep.
hour video, and just kept digging into it. It's like, man, this guy's doing like 4, 5, 7 hour Zooms, just giving away free information. So if he's doing that here, then he's got to be doing, like, what is he doing in his paid group? So just send an inquiry in that day, or not that day, but June 22 of 22, and had no intention of joining that time. Just wanted to get some information, and then I talked to one of the reps and say, all right, I'll just do it, whatever. Just joined.
Nice.
Yeah,
June 22 of 22.
yeah,
That's an easy date to remember, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And I think it's pretty cool that you thought of it as how much more might he be giving it to his paid group.
yeah.
I didn't think about that because I never saw him as free, meaning
Mhm.
when I met him, I knew he had mentorship. And I didn't think to myself, well, I think I'll follow his free stuff first. I didn't think that. I didn't,
Yeah.
at all. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna follow him. Now you joined both SubTo and Gator, right?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Not around. It was close to the same time, but I mean, one right after the other. I actually had no intention of joining Gator. I just wanted
You do
to.
a lot of things that you have no intention of.
Yeah, I'm quite impulsive. But yeah, I mean, at that time, the Gator offer was off the table, I think. But I was really into business lines of credit. I wanted to learn more about it. So I called PCS, paid the whatever fee, and the guy said, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but let me see if I can get you in the gated group. I said, all right, no problem. Do what you want to do. And so he got me in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you're lucky on that one because
Yeah, very
well,
lucky.
actually, they closed the door and then it was like the door would spring back open.
Yeah,
There were people that were complaining. I thought that was it. It was going to be just us, and I was like, hey, I don't know why you'd think that they wouldn't continue opening the door. And now there's like 9,000, I think.
Are there really that many?
Oh yeah, it's growing at a faster pace than SubTo.
Wow.
SubTo has slowed down a little bit. I mean, it's at 14, but it's been 2 years longer. So when you consider how much less time SubTo Gator has been going,
Right.
It's really catching fire.
Yeah.
And I think both are really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's absolutely a good way to go. So talk to me about that white glove burr. You went to this property. Did you buy it?
I did end up buying it. It was like my smoothest burr ever. Not a perfect burr, but it was really smooth. I think we had a 4-month window to get the renovation in, but we ended up getting done in 3.
Nice.
Like the city was super cooperative, which turned out to not be the case.
Which city was this?
Oh, this is in Baltimore, Maryland.
I gotta write this down, man. They're a good city, huh? Okay.
They were good that time, not the next few times.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah.
Those are not words that you hear very often. That
Yeah.
the city was really cooperative and really nice. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about what you did with it, about the deal.
Yeah, so I walked through it. First time ever working with a wholesaler. First time ever working with a hard money lender. Walked the property. Sorry, what?
You went through a hard money lender on it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then walked the property. My contractor that my wife had met like 6 or 8 months earlier, who we really liked and still do, met me at the property, gave me an estimate. Seemed like the numbers were good. We did floors, walls. We actually opened up a wall in the kitchen. Like everything cosmetic you could do, we did.
Good.
Yeah. And
so, you rented it out and got a good return?
Yeah, rented it out. The return's not that good just because when I started, interest rates were great, and then when I finished, interest rates were not. So it's about break even, but if I hold on to it long enough, it'll be okay. And so it's just kind of
for sure
where I'm at. Yeah,
single family,
row home, townhouse. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. And you still own it?
Still own it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
How many doors do you have?
I have 30, I think, give or take. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Are they all near you, or talk to me about location? And also, are they all single family or what?
Okay, so the ones in the DMV area are all townhouses or row homes.
Okay.
And then everywhere else, like Huntsville, Chattanooga, and Akron are all single family.
How did you choose those markets?
Again, it's almost like dartboard. So, okay, well, Huntsville, I had gone there for my regular work and knew that there's a big military base. So just decided to invest there. And then Huntsville got pretty expensive pretty quickly. So just picked Chattanooga because it was close by. And then I picked Baltimore because I was spending a lot of time on Facebook, just in those regular wholesale groups, and just seeing a ton of activity in Baltimore. So I did that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did you do them sight unseen, or would you go out and inspect them? How did you do the actual purchase?
Yeah. So everything except for that one, that first one in Baltimore, I have not seen in person. Yeah.
So that means you have to find everybody to service that house.
Yes.
Like you got to find a plumber, an electrician, gardener. How do you find those people?
So that was through, I don't know if I heard it in one of David Green's books or something, but I just went on Zillow and then went to Agent Finder in the market that I wanted to buy in, and just read the reviews. Anything that said investment or help me buy an investment property, I reached out to, and then I asked if they invested themselves, and if they invested themselves, and I was pretty sure that they had, the network to help me.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And have things worked out that way?
I think so. I mean, everything is, they're all cash flowing properties. They all have a ton of equity, where I really want to at some point do a cash out refi and pull a bunch of money out. But, that was also a product of when I purchased as well, because, buying at that time, anything that you bought would appreciate 10-20% by the time you're done with it. Yeah, you can pull your money back out. So I would say
Exactly.
a lot of it had to do with just being pretty lucky, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I believe it. Now it's not so much. Well, it
Yeah.
depends. You have to do other things.
Yeah.
But what type of well, let me just say that I'm curious a little bit. I haven't heard anything about Pablo. Talk
Yeah.
to
Oh,
me
yeah.
about who this Pablo dude is, because I think he's as important to me as Pace.
Yeah.
I love
Pablo's,
Pablo.
yeah, Pablo is very important to me because I had scheduled some time with him on his Calendly because I
Should we
think I
talk
thought,
about who he is first? Like, I mean, who's Pablo? How many Pablos are there
oh,
in the
yeah,
world?
yeah. So Pablo Sierra, he's my partner in Akron, Ohio, and he's the reason why I'm in Akron, and he's the reason why I am in Section 8. So scheduled some time with him. Did not realize it was, I think, July 4th that we were scheduled to meet. And so I was buying my crappy fireworks from the Virginia stand where I used to live because we didn't have any of the good stuff there, and paying paying the bill. Walking in my car, and I get a phone call from Florida. I was like, yeah, who is this? Another spammer. So I almost don't pick up, but end up picking up and just say hi. He says, "Oh, this is Pablo. We're scheduled to talk. Is now still a good time?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess. Yeah, let's talk." And at that time, I was looking into doing pad split because the cash flow was very enticing. Um, and so we're talking numbers about the different options, and he was just asking me questions and making me feel pretty. He didn't do it on purpose, but just asking me questions and just, you about pad split, and making me kind of question things a little bit. And so he explained to me what he does with Section 8. And what really got to me was the fact that these things don't need a ton of money to get up and running. And then I started running the numbers where the uh, cash requirement for a pad split, if you take that out and you extrapolate over the number of houses you can buy in Akron, Ohio, you're going to get similar cash flow, but you're just kind of diversifying it over multiple properties. So
Mhm.
that's why I decided to work with Pablo.
Oh, interesting. Because it gave you less risk, or I mean, if the numbers were the same, some people might have said, "Well, why don't I just do less,
Mhm.
like fewer, and do pad split?"
Yeah, I liked it because my goal is to own as many doors as I possibly can, because the more doors that you own, the less risk you have overall. Because once once someone leaves your property, right, it's vacant. And so if you have one property that's 100% vacancy versus if you have 1,000, that's, I should have chose 100. If you have 100, then it's a 1% vacancy.
There
Yeah,
you go. There you
yeah.
go. Well, that's interesting.
Mhm.
Well, we have a little explaining to do because Marianne has been very
Mhm.
kind and she wants to know a little bit about Section 8.
Sure.
So, talk a little bit about the process that you and Pablo, right from the beginning
Mhm.
to when it's done.
Sure. So, just a brief about Section 8. It is a housing voucher program where those that are in need can't necessarily afford the rents, the market rents, will reach out to the government, local government, and the government will subsidize their rent. So, and they'll do a large portion of it. And what I really like about it is it's a lot of it's government guaranteed, right? Guaranteed rents, and these people are incentivized to keep their voucher in good standing. So if they are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they lose their voucher and they can no longer be part of that program. Um, And what I really like about, I mean, another thing that I really like about it is when my dad came here, he was on food stamps, and it helped him survive. And so I kind of see Section 8 as something similar to food stamps, where you're helping someone who's, a good person get into a place that they can't afford. And so you're able to, change the trajectory of that person. And then that opens up a lot of different opportunities. Once you get them in, you can turn it into a lease option, sell them the house at some point. There are all these different things that you can do. But that's what Section 8 is
Are
government.
most of the people? Do you end up having to kick out a few, like, or more than a few, or sometimes people say, well, you get what you pay for. So if you don't pay for it, you're not going to care about it. That sort of
Not,
thing.
not necessarily. I
Only,
mean, we've had some people come in and actually put work into the house because they want to make it their home, right? They have like pride. We're looking for people who would have that pride of rentership. So we have very strict screening criteria, and don't really deviate from that.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're being really selective.
Yeah.
And Pablo's in Florida, and
Mhm.
you are in where? Virginia?
I'm in Florida as well, so
Oh,
we're
you're in
like,
Florida as well. Okay.
yeah,
And,
we're like two or
and
three
these are
hours
in
away from Florida.
Akron.
Yeah, and these properties in Akron, and the reason why he chose Akron, I think, is just because the cash on cash return in that market is really good, and he does all the things that I'm not good at, which are finding the deal, negotiating the deal, finding the contractors, and all that.
What do you do?
So I just bring the money.
Okay. Let's
Yeah,
talk about that. Let's
sure.
talk about what that means. I mean, are you guys 50-50 partners?
We're 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
what does it look like when he finds a property that he likes from a wholesaler? Do you guys fix it, or does he buy it after it's fixed? Talk to us about when you guys target a property and how
Mhm.
much money is involved in it.
Yeah, so he finds fixers,
Mhm.
nothing major. Typically 1 to 2 months worth of work, if that. And going in saying, okay, it used to be he would send me an address and then send me the numbers. Now it's he'll call me and tell me, and then tell me the numbers, and I'll say yes or no, right? Uh, and I mean, that's just how it's been. But then he'll manage the project, and I will go out and I'll find more money for the next deal, essentially.
Very nice. And
Yeah.
how do the numbers look? What sort of numbers do you guys get on that?
So we get just before the split, it's typically anywhere between a 20 and 35% cash on cash return, depending on
Oh,
the
nice.
property.
Nice.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's not bad at all. Very
Yeah.
nice. And are you guys, do you do anything else? Because I think you do, don't you?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things that I do, which has been a lot of fun, is I help my mom with her money, just to help her get retired. So that's been pretty cool. Just learning how to be a good PML and just evaluating deals and underwriting. So that's one thing that I do.
So you
And
got your
then
mother in as a PML? Is that what you're
I
saying?
have her, yeah, but not on these deals because we're it would be a prohibited transaction. So I have her funding like other people's deals. Uh, and then one thing that I've been working on, which I am really looking forward to, is this white glove burr headline that I have, and that is when I got into real estate, it was learn everything on your own, use your own money, and make a bunch of mistakes, be unorganized, don't have good books, right? All the things that a lot of us start off with. And my goal at the time was only to buy as many houses as I could as fast as I could, finding funding in different ways. But now looking back at it, it was pretty dangerous what I was doing, and it was very stressful. And I'm still, cleaning up that mess, but I'm, cleaning it up. And so what prompted this was back in March when I went back home to my friend's wedding. I sat at a table with a childhood friend of mine, and he turns to me and says, like, I've seen what you've been doing, and it's cool, but I don't want to learn. I don't want to do all the things that you're doing. I'm lazy, essentially. And I said, okay, no problem. I'll help you out. So I brought him in as a private money lender first, just to show him just to, have him so that his money wasn't just sitting there. And that was the lowest risk possible, because no matter whether the property makes money or not, whether I receive money or not, does not matter. He's getting paid out. And, of course, like I leaned him, I have liens against but against a bunch of my properties to protect him. And I went through all the documentation, the paperwork with him. So he'll learn in case he finds another opportunity. He knows how to do it the proper way. And then recently he reached out to me and said, okay, now I kind of want to learn what it is that you're doing. And I said, no problem. So I talked to my operator, and I said, okay, let's just add him to our Slack channel so we can see everything that we're doing. And then she kind of says, well, let's hold on for a second. Like, how much does he know? What is he doing? Like, this might overwhelm him. So we started going back and forth. And then finally I said, all right, well, I'm cleaning up my books right now. So I'm learning how to do everything the right way. And I have a team that I'm putting together. And then I found a really good team in Birmingham that I like, who knows Section 8. And I'm partnered with another friend of mine in SubTo, who's, I think he's just amazing, really smart, and says like these people are great. So why don't I take what he's doing? Why don't I take what I've learned, fix all the mistakes that I made, right, and then help my friends out? And so,
Cool.
so that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm bringing capital partners, like two of the people that I'm working with that don't know anything about real estate, but have expressed desire, but have not had the time to get into it. I'm helping them open their Wyoming LLC. And then
Nice.
once they do that, I'm going to go with my person, and we're going to open up the joint LLC, where, all the paperwork's done. And, with the first few, I can do this where I say, if you are uncomfortable, you don't like what is that's happening, or the deal doesn't work out the way that you were expecting it to, I will buy you out. Right. That is kind of like, because they're my guinea pigs. Right.
Yep.
And so around that, what I plan to do, what I'm working on right now is creating content so that it's essentially a course for my partners, where they learn everything from opening your Wyoming LLC, which address to use, which address not to use, right? And then the next step after that, and then show them like how to find your long distance team, how to manage your long distance team, what kind of reporting requirements should you expect from your team, and then also setting up the books, what kind of, how getting the accounting team in place, getting the bank accounts in place, making sure that you're not buying these properties in your own name and then deeding them into your corporate structure, just completely,
Sorry, that's funny.
defeating the entire purpose of everything that you're doing, right? And then onto creating, making sure they have financials, not just for each individual house, but for your organization as a whole. And then at the end of the year, you have a K1, you have 1099s for all your subs, and everything's great. So that is what I'm working on. Like, I'm starting to create content starting this week, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. That's awesome. And they're your beta, right? Your beta testers.
They're my beta. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, you're really going to affect some lives, and that's great. And I think by creating the content
Mhm.
and going through it, you're straightening yourself out too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing it right, and you're also, anytime you're going to put any material up as a former teacher, I'll tell you, you look at it and you go, I got to make sure this is right. Wait,
Yeah.
and you pass it by someone, or you go and do your research and you go, oh dear, I almost made a mistake,
Mhm.
and it's once you teach it, you own it. So that is a really cool thing to do, for sure.
So one thing that I want to do to take it a step further is, months ago, I started create this group for self-directed IRA account holders, and did not think about this until I think last week, where we have people that are willing to loan each other money to get into these long-term rentals. Well, what if we took this white glove BRRRR we brought it to that group. And so now people don't even have to use their own money to get into these properties. You just go into the group, say, I'm working with John on this deal. Can anybody lend me X amount of dollars on this property? And then own it with like no money out of their own pocket. And then if
Wow.
they all are doing that, then it's just a way for everybody to get into the property with essentially no money out of their own pocket. Like,
That's cool. That's very cool.
So
And
still trying to figure out how to structure that so that everyone's happy.
well, hey, it takes time for sure. And are you going to brand it White Glove Burr?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll find out, what the audience feels, and, you'll get feedback on it for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool that you actually have figured out how to help other people by going back to the basics and growing it and developing it. I think that's a very big step. And if you can share that way, it will be good. Now, are they going to be all at a distance also?
Yeah, they're all going to be in Birmingham just because that's Birmingham, Huntsville, or Tuscaloosa are the markets that I'm looking at the moment, just because the contractor that I have that I like is heavily in those areas. But at some point, once I have everything stabilized, then the plan is to go into another market, build a team from scratch, and then just really take it to the next level and give different offerings to people.
Very nice indeed. I love the fact that you're thinking about how to put together a team and then teach them how to put together a team.
Yeah.
That is a very valuable secret or knowledge to have for sure. Okay, I want to take a look at a couple of pictures just for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, and because we're coming up to, July 4th, tell us about this one.
So this is on top of, I don't know if anybody knows Yosemite National Park, but this is Sentinel Dome. It's just like a 2 or 3 mile hike, but just standing on top of it, I have my golfing hat because I was really into golf at the time when I didn't have kids. And then I had the Shake Shack shirt because just love Shake Shack. And then I just thought it'd be funny to put an American flag kind of like, in the, where you can see through it. Yeah. And then, so Half Dome in the background.
Yes.
I mean,
it's a beautiful picture, scary. Actually. I really like it. And I have been there myself. Yeah. Yosemite National Park is beautiful. Yeah. And, spent quite a bit of time there. My kids actually lived in Mammoth Lakes. So that's in one section of it. So it's just gorgeous. Yeah, I love it. I love it very much. And where were you when you were with these two handsome dudes?
So this was at the last ever mastermind. At least market is the last mastermind back in October. I had kind of gone into this not really knowing what to expect, but was just blown away by everything that happened. And I was really hoping to be able to get a picture with these two guys, even though every time I saw them, they were surrounded by people. So luckily I caught them, took a picture. I didn't want to take too much of their time, but they were very, very nice about it.
Yeah, they're very good about it. I think that's where I first met you, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Melissa introduced us, I believe.
Yep. Yeah. Yep, for sure. I love this picture.
Yeah.
I think that's an awesome picture.
Yeah, love that was at the mastermind as well.
Yeah, when they took the yearbook pictures.
Yeah. Exactly. And I was wearing that. I got so much use out of that hoodie because I went to Arizona thinking that it never got cold, but didn't realize that they have air conditioning. So I wore that every single day.
Yeah, that's the problem with a hot place is, when you're inside, it's not so hot. You got to, really pay to get it cool. Now, this is funny. What's going on?
So I believe we used to have my friends and I used to have an annual snowboarding trip. And I believe this was at Snowshoe, West Virginia. And I really liked the hat, but I was too broke to pay for it. So I just put it on, took a picture and put it back.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I actually heard something very similar the week before last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Halloween.
Yeah. Halloween.
Talk to me about this. Did you know about Halloween and did you love Halloween? Or you look like the tin man, the man with the tin hat, but what's with that pumpkin? Is it upside down?
Yeah, I think it's upside down. It might not even be mine because I'm terrible at pumpkin carving. Like, anything artsy is not my specialty. So I think what I did was I just took other people's stuff and took a picture with it, acting like it was my own.
Oh my God, that is funny. Oh, that's so funny. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Now, talk to me a little bit about, the uh, clean books.
Yeah. Um,
I love that
clean,
name, clean books.
yeah, clean books. It's something that I have been dreaming about for years now. Um, Really, it's so important and really underrated. Not a lot of people want to deal with it, but the longer that you wait, the more headache it becomes. And really, having good financial statements starts with bookkeeping. And unless you have a really good idea of what your financial picture looks like, it is very difficult or challenging to make the best decisions. You're either doing too much or you're not doing as much as you could be. And so that is
Or
something
you
that
think you're making money, but you're
yeah,
not.
yeah, exactly. And so, for me, a lot of money comes in and a lot of money goes out, and I don't know whether I'm making money or not making money. So that was something that was a big priority for me this year. And so something that I'm working on just, every single day. And that's a big reason why I put this white glove burr together, because, especially when you get started, you are looking for deals, you're looking for opportunities, and you can easily get overwhelmed. Um, so, this is really, it was an opportunity for me to clean up my own books and also provide clean books for people that work with me.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I do think that what you say is true. When I first started, I didn't want to look at how much I was spending,
Mm-hmm.
because if I looked at how much I would spend, then I would not spend. And you need to spend money to make money in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, whether they be with mentorships or books or travel, or even mics, right? Things
Yeah.
like that. Everything
Yeah.
costs money. So, um, I think it was Oscar that had first said to me, "You'd be shocked how many people think they're making money but are
Mhm.
not." And I was like, "Oh, well, I know I'm not making money now,
Yeah.
but I feel like the traction is just coming."
Mhm.
And that, like you said, the longer you wait to get your books in order, the more there is. So, in full disclosure to everyone, because usually I don't have any kind of a anything going with the guests that I bring on, but I had interviewed John for this podcast, and then I said, "Yeah, please." I am actually going to I am hiring John to help me to get my books in order, because I think that it is very important. And, you're at a stage now where you're kind of understanding, okay, this is a valid thing. Let's
Mhm.
clean it up and get it right.
Yeah.
So I think that that there should be a big market for that. Um, people can't just come in and thrash around forever. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. You gotta, get quiet and do the books and find out, where you are.
Mhm.
Because when the IRS says, "Hey, we think you owe us money," you better prove you can't, or you'd better have already kept out for that,
Right.
you know, um, tax that you need to pay. So there's a lot of good reasons. And I love the name Clean Books. I think I might patent it if you don't.
Yeah. Go for it.
Clean Books.
Yeah.
And then somebody else that, we do have a couple of snakes in the community. They could open up cooked books.
Yeah. I mean, That is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But
That happens
I
everywhere.
hope they get weeded out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You bet. You bet. Well, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for your time here. And guys, you can see that he is available at on IG. You don't have a YouTube yet, right?
I have a link on my link tree just to force myself to do it, but it is coming soon.
Good, good. And when you
Yeah.
think of John, you can think of him as a helper, a buyer, and a lender, because
Mhm.
that's how he identifies. And I really, really, that's all I keep hearing from people is just how much you do help and what a great guy you are. So I say thank you for that very, very much. And that's cute. She's been a sweetheart the whole time.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. And for everyone else, we shall see you next week.
Thank you, Effie, so much.